Hey everybody, this is Growing Up Skywalker and I'm Anna.
I'm Sam.
Happy Tuesday. Today we have finished up the Clone Wars movie and we're diving back into the Clone Wars TV series with 2 episodes that take place in direct chronological order. We're doing Clone Cadets, which is Season 3, Episode 1, and Supply Lines, Season 3, Episode 3.
So these ones aren't strictly part of an arc with each other, but they definitely occur chronologically before anything else.
Yeah, we're setting up an arc that is going to take place very soon in the future.
So what happened in Clone Cadets, first of all?
Oh my god, I'm so excited. Okay, so we're on the planet of Kamino. We immediately meet Jedi General Shaak Ti.
Who is a Togruta like
She is the most
Ahsoka.
beautiful person I've ever seen. She is so beautiful.
She is a tall Togruta wearing voluminous robes.
Luminous eyes, calm voice.
And then her head tail, which is called
Leku.
and Montals.
Montals are the spiky things on top of their heads that give them height. And then Leku are the tails that fall like down their backs.
And hers are enormous.
They're really long. They're graceful.
Yeah, which might just be, she's well gifted as a Togruta.
She's got some assets. She has many assets. She's beautiful. She's the Jedi General overseeing the training of the clone cadets for the Republic Army. Although it sounds like the Jedi are stretched really thin because the Jedi have also commissioned bounty hunters to additionally train the clone cadets. So anyway, we are taken into this episode witnessing the final practice test of a couple of squads of clones. We see Domino Squad struggling mightily, and that's how we're introduced to Heavy, Fives, Echo, Cut Up, and Droid Bait.
Although Echo doesn't like his name. Fives won't be called by anything but his name because he's CT5555.
Oh my god.
And
Cut Up doesn't have a name.
And neither does Heavy yet.
Heavy doesn't want to be called Heavy.
They don't call him Heavy until later.
Oh, interesting. And yeah, Droid Bait doesn't have a name either. So we just have...
he does. He's Droid Bait.
Oh god.
And he lives with it.
That is the worst clone name I've ever heard.
Yeah.
So Shaak Ti and the leaders of the clone training are seeing all of the flaws of Domino Squad. They're short-sighted, they're selfish, according to Shaak Ti. They fail their practice test badly because they disobey orders, they leave a man behind. And Brick, who is one of the bounty hunters, wants to fail them.
Brick is a Cinetine, which is a species which has massive megamind brain going on.
He's eminently hateable. I hate him so much.
Yeah.
I hate him so much.
Well, he's a big meanie.
He is a big meanie.
And then LS, the other guy, who
is a big softie.
Yeah.
They're like good cop,
nice.
bad cop.
They are.
Ellis is fighting for Domino Squad to get a chance to take their practice test again. Brick is like, fail them immediately, make them maintenance clones. And then we're introduced to clone 99, who is also called Shorty.
99 is a obviously flawed clone. He's hunchbacked. He's got gnarly skin.
I would push back on your use of the descriptor flawed.
Okay.
But we can talk about that later. I have a lot of thoughts about 99.
Okay. Anyway, moving on.
So we cut to a scene of Domino Squad fighting amongst themselves, which continues for pretty much the entire episode. We cut to Shaak Ti talking with Lama Su, who is the Kaminoan
Prime Minister. Yeah.
Prime Minister, who's also kind of in charge of the clone production process. And we discover that Jango Fett's genes, which were initially used to create the clones, have been stretched and stretched and stretched to make more clones, apparently leading to quote-unquote deficient clones.
That doesn't make any sense from a genetics point of view because you can really easily copy DNA. It's what our cells do every day. But
is this a plot device?
It is a plot device.
Okay.
Or it's an excuse by Lama Su to explain why these clones are deficient, because this is still early in the war and they continue making clones for the next 3 years.
Yeah, interesting. Anyway, we see some amazing Shaak Ti scenes. We'll definitely have to talk about it. There's a long plot line where Domino Squad doesn't look like they're going to pull it together in time for their final graduation exam.
Well, and then they don't.
They don't. Yeah, they're given the Citadel challenge again. Bravo Squad crushes it, and they become ARC troopers.
I mean, at least they pass.
Yeah, they pass. They graduate. They're on their way.
Yeah.
And then Domino Squad meets Commander Colt. He's overseeing their final practice exam. He calls them pretty unorthodox.
Mm-hmm. And then they're doing the best they possibly can, or the best they've done so far. And they're about to make it, but they leave droid bait behind or cut up behind.
Yeah.
And that's when they fail.
I was getting their exams mixed up.
Mm-hmm.
So after they fail again, Fives and droid bait? Fives and cut up?
It's really hard to tell because at this point they all look identical.
Yeah, 2 of the clones request that they get transferred to Bravo Squad.
I think it's Fives and Echo, but yeah.
Interesting. That would make sense. They're kind of the overachievers of the group. There's an amazing scene with Shakti where she says, "I'm a Jedi where the individual and the group are one and the same, much like you clones. And you're going to have to solve your problems as a whole and not as individuals." Ooh, it's so good.
And also, Heavy is going to go AWOL.
Yeah, Heavy's going to go AWOL. Cut Up is getting intimidated and harassed by Brick.
Yeah. So Shakti says, "I'll let you take your final exam one more time."
So it is really down to the wire for this group of 5 clones because the threat is that if they don't pull it together in time, they're going to become maintenance clones like 99.
But during these events of Cut Up getting intimidated by Brick and Heavy going AWOL, they have transformative moments.
They do, which I want to talk about more in depth. So we'll just sum up the plot by saying they get to retake their graduation exam. Brick tries to sabotage them. He takes their ascension cables out of their belt. So their final Citadel challenge, they don't have any grappling hooks and ascension cables to get up the wall of the Citadel, quote unquote. And they have to come up with this beautiful and ingenious solution using the entire skills of all of the team members. They deactivate the guns in the wall, they form a chain, they get to the top, and they graduate.
Yep.
And Shakti calls them perhaps the finest soldiers she's ever seen.
I'd like to point out we watched this one together and Anna cried the entire second half.
I was going to say this is an appropriate time to mention that I cried so hard I gave myself a splitting headache.
She soaked my shirt through.
That is the hardest I've cried in so long. It was so embarrassing.
There's a lot of emotion in this, which is amazing because it's 6 clones and Brick and LS and Shakti. And that's the entire cast of what's going on here. And there's not a terrible amount of action. It's 3 scenes through the Citadel and then a few fistfights in the locker room.
Yeah, there's not a ton of action, but the emotional action. Like on the cryometer scale of 1 to 10, this was an 11. Oh my gosh. I have so much to say. Where do you want to start?
I have a lot to say about Brick and LS.
Okay, let's start there.
So
Ellis is my fave.
Yeah, so the first time I watched this, I was like, yes, Brick is the bad cop and LS is the good cop. And then in the moment where Brick meets with Cut Up in the hangar, he sends him a secret note. And Cut Up's like, yes, you've asked to meet me here.
Yeah, and Brick pulls a Breakfast Club. Young man, you mess with a bull, you're gonna get the horns.
I think it's more Full Metal Jacket when he says, he gives up in Full Metal Jacket, he gives Private Joker his name. And it's like, what are you, some kind of Joker? You think everything's a cut up. So it's very much that line as he's beating him up.
Yeah, it's horrifying.
I mean, he punches him once.
But he's in a position of authority.
He is.
Over this clone.
So as I was watching over this, I was like, I wonder what kind of weird alien Brick is. And he's a Cinetine, and they have actual megaminds. They're so smart that they're able to compute hyperspace drums without an astromech droid.
He's smart and yet casually cruel.
I disagree. He is smart in that he pushes the exact buttons that they need.
That is a really generous look at the antagonist of this episode. You are an antagonist apologizer, Sam.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's I see that Brick actually, where he pushes their buttons, because he's the one who took away the ascension cables. He's the one who's yelling at them. He's the one who, like, he lets them know that he's ready to fail them before they even get to their final exam to make them try harder.
But the thing is that the threat of failure isn't what motivates them into success. It is compassion and empathy and appealing to their better natures, their brotherhood that pushes them to succeed. So Brick's tactics, in my mind, are not effective.
So between Echo, who is unable to adapt to the situation, as Shakti says at the beginning, and Cut Up, who thinks it's all a big joke, and Heavy, who always is willing to fly solo, I think none of them are taking it seriously. And so... Which
is interesting because this is their futures they're gambling with.
Especially because, as we talk later with with 99 and Heavy, where 99 says, at least you had a chance. I never had a squad. I never had a chance. Between those two conversations, you see how the stakes have been raised for Domino Squad. And when the stakes are raised is when they have the opportunity to shine.
Okay. I have a slightly different thought on that, but it's my big point, so I'm going to save it.
Okay. What do you want to talk about in this episode?
Well, what did you think about Ellis?
He was exceptionally compassionate, but I don't think he added anything that Shakti didn't already have as far as her own counsel. However, the two of them, from a big picture perspective, there is a moment early on where I believe it's Fives who's saying, well, I don't know why I have to get trained by a bounty hunter instead of a Jedi.
And Brick says they're too busy for you.
Yeah,
I think on the macro scale, Ellis and Brick represent two different perspectives on the clones, which is really beautifully illustrated. They have a conversation where Brick says, why do you care about them? And Ellis says, why don't you? And Ellis says, we should treat Domino Squad as a special challenge. Brick says we should treat them as failures. And then Ellis is like, I have faith that they can be the finest clones that we've ever trained. Ellis has an eye for potential where it looks like Brick just has an eye to tear them down.
You know, that definitely seems like the way that it is meant to be portrayed, but I stand by my Brick is a megamind thought process that he engineered a lot of
First
this.
is Darth Jar Jar, then it's Brick is a nice guy. When is it going to end?
Oh, he's not nice. He's not good. He is paid to get results, and this is the results that he's given. He seems to know how to motivate them. And it's an interesting carrot and stick problem that
It's all stick.
Yeah, but some clones are like, yes, all we need is a carrot, and some clones need a little bit of stick. And apparently Domino Squad needs stick.
I really want to talk about Shakti.
I know. Tell us all about Shakti.
Did you totally see that coming?
At some point.
Yeah, okay. Shakti is literally who I want to be. Like, I want to be beautiful and competent and compassionate and... Actually, I want to be Shakti, but you know what I want more is I want Anakin to be Shakti. Here's why. Shakti says to Lama Su, Jedi do not feel concern. If there's ever a statement in Star Wars that is more opposite than Anakin's mindset, I would like to find it. And I would like someone to point it out to me.
Now that's very true, that he does live in a constant state of concern for all sorts of things. He cares almost too much because Shakti is the arbiter of these clones' fate, and she is 100% willing to let them fail.
Yeah, she wears that mantle of enormous responsibility so gracefully.
And I think that is a valued part of having the bounty hunters and the Jedi as sort of the greater good cop, bad cop, because Shakti is able to say, I'm not here coaching you. I'm here overseeing the whole process.
Interesting. Just imagine how different Star Wars would be if Anakin had been able to inhabit that mentality that Jedi don't feel concern.
Yeah. I mean, interestingly enough, his concern is on a purely personal basis. And that's, I think, Anakin's flaw, is that he cares about his personal problems. But when it comes to persecuting the war, he doesn't seem to have as many concerns. In fact, we'll see that really importantly in that next episode we watch.
Interesting.
Not the exact...
The next arc.
The next arc.
Yeah. Interesting.
also want to talk about 99.
Oh my God. Yeah. Okay. Buckle in, kids. I have so many thoughts. I actually brought myself to tears again thinking about 99. I was in the car on a long drive, and some of my realizations about 99 hit me like a freight train. So buckle in.
So 99, all the other clones are identical looking, but 99 has strained skin, hunched back, and he's the maintenance clone. He's called in to clean everything up, and the threat is always that these clones will become maintenance clones.
Yeah, he's become kind of the boogeyman in the basement. Like, oh, you better not mess up or you're going to become just like Shorty over there.
Mm-hmm. But he's sitting there when Domino Squad is getting dressed down by Brick, and he says, you don't give them enough credit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, for him to speak up in the first 5 or 6 minutes of the episode in their defense is really beautiful. I mean, I didn't have a lot of compassion for Domino Squad 5 or 6 minutes in because I was like, these guys are a bunch of hacks. Like, they're not trying at all. Mm-hmm. But it becomes more meaningful to see 99 stand up for them again and again and again.
The other thing, 99 has 2 other really important moments in this episode.
Oh, yeah.
One of them is when he gives Heavy his name. Because when Brick was beating up Cut Up, that's when Cut Up gets his name. And when Heavy is about to go AWOL, that's when 99 gives him his name.
Okay, so 99 says, you can't do this to your squad. And then Heavy says, we're nothing but a bad batch. Mm-hmm. Ah! I haven't even seen Bad Batch yet, but like, I understand foreshadowing. Yeah, Heavy says, we're failures just like you.
And then 99 says, you're not like me. You have your brothers. I never got a chance, and you have a chance. Because he's obviously physically, not capable of going into battle. Or at least wearing normal clone armor.
Okay, I have thoughts about that. Here's the conversation. 99 says, how can I be a failure when I never even got my chance? Mm-hmm. And this is a chance that you are throwing away. Embrace that you have a team. I never had that. But you need them and they need you. Why carry such a heavy burden when you have your brothers at your side? I cried so hard. The fortune cookie for this episode is brothers in arms or brothers for life. And I was just like, oh, brotherhood, unity, valor. Mm-hmm. God. Is this why people like war movies?
Part of it. Like this sense of brotherhood and battle brothers is a really important thing in really human culture in general. It goes back to like the Odyssey. You've got Achilles and his battle brothers like just being distraught over each other's deaths. And that's thousands and thousands of years ago. It's something that goes through all of human history, that you put people in tough situations and they form incredibly intimate bonds. And that is what is trying to be fostered amongst the clones. That's something that Shakti says at the very beginning. Unity wins wars.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. One of a multitude of amazing Shakti quotes.
The other extremely important 99 moment is at the very end.
Yes. Okay, let me get my... Okay, can I relay this conversation that 99 and Heavy have?
Of course.
So 99 is like skulking around after Domino Squad graduates. He comes up to Heavy because all the other clones walk off and Heavy is the only one left. And he says, I heard you were quite the leader out there. In a moment of beautiful character development, Heavy says, no leaders, we are a team. All of us. And he looks at 99, who says, the army is lucky to have a clone like you. I'm sorry, I'm crying. And Heavy says, not as lucky as I am to have a brother like you. And then Heavy gives his medal to 99.
And says, I'll have to come back to pick this up sometime.
I was crying so hard I couldn't see the screen, actually. So I had to just listen to the dialogue.
And fortunately, that's the end of the episode. So,
oh my God.
This is, needless to say, this is an extremely emotional episode.
I didn't think when I signed up to watch this animated cartoon that I would spend half of it crying.
Especially because it's a bunch of identically voiced, identical looking dudes.
Oh my God, I love them so much. Okay, but I have a spicy take.
Yeah, spicier than Brick actually being the good guy.
That is, I'm deeply impressed with how you spun me around on that one, but maybe. Okay, this is a monologue performed by me, Anna, who loves the
Demonstrative
clones.
monologue.
Okay, bear with me. So this episode, one of the themes is that individuality can create ingenuity, right?
Mm-hmm.
We see Domino Squad overcome the obstacles to pass the Citadel challenge in a really unorthodox way. So clones are actually at a deficit when they do all think the same.
Mm-hmm.
Because when they all think the same, like Bravo Squad, there are no new ideas to solve problems, right? This is actually what we mean when we talk about the importance of diversity and inclusion, like in the workplace, in organizations. When you have different kinds of people at the table, it helps you solve problems that you wouldn't be able to solve otherwise. When you have different brains around the table,
Absolutely,
right?
yeah.
Here's what I think. I think that 99, the maintenance clone, has seen so many clones pass through this training program.
Mm-hmm.
He has knowledge of what they need to do. He has empathy. He has intuition about what makes each individual clone shine. He could be a great general in wartime, but he was never given the chance. And you want to know why? Because the Kaminoans think that individuality is a deficit. Individuality makes you deficient.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say that 99's individuality, his disability, his stature, his size, his physical strength, I think all of that enables him to be more ingenious, right?
Yeah, I see that.
It's really hard for me to watch him being born into this life that he didn't ask for, have a disability that causes him to be labeled deficient and defective, and then be relegated to menial work. It's so hard for me to watch his potential and intelligence get squashed by prejudice.
Yeah, that's, I think, there's a lot to be said on that.
It reminds me of that, I don't know what the exact saying is, but it's something like, how many geniuses were never acknowledged because they were enslaved?
Yeah, for sure. And it leads me to something sort of uplifting in my life of recognizing that, like, I might not be the best at anything in my life, but I might have been the best mammoth hunter ever if I'd been born.
Yeah, you could have been the caveman who discovered fire.
Yeah.
Or the wheel.
Or the person who's going to, invent cold fusion was unfortunately born before the wheel.
Absolutely. But the thing is that 99 is living in a world that could genuinely use his talents.
Mm-hmm.
And instead, prejudice by those in power squashes his potential before he even gets a chance to shine.
One of those items is actually the, crazy wheels of capitalism running here, which is that the Kaminoans are contracted to deliver a product.
Mm-hmm.
And so, of course, everything that fails that product is, a loss for them instead of a profit.
Yeah,
Each
like if you're
successful
trying
clone
to
is a profit.
manufacture M&Ms, you want them all to be the right color. And when they get all melted and funky looking, like you can't deliver those M&Ms.
Even when they're the most delicious ones.
Absolutely. 99 is a delicious M&M. Oh, I love him so much. That's what I was crying about in the car.
We want to give a quick shout out to Anchor.fm. Anchor.fm is a product of Spotify, and they provide podcast hosting and delivery to all the apps, everything. And for new podcasters like us, it is an absolute lifesaver.
This is really nice because I'm a Spotify person and Sam is not. So we get to listen to our podcast on the platforms that we prefer. And so do you.
And they provide podcasts on platforms we didn't even know about.
Which is so exciting.
Yes. So download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
Thanks, Anchor.
Thanks, Anchor. So I'm pretty sure that the next episode doesn't even twitch your cryometer, but this episode, 11 out of 10.
Yeah. Clone Cadets is the hardest I've cried in a long time. And those thoughts on the inequity of the clone army will stay with me probably for the rest of the series, because I'm now firmly on the side of how do we fault clones for defecting from slavery.
Interesting. Especially interesting in note of Cat and Mouse, of when Slick.
Absolutely. That's what I was thinking. I had even more new empathy for Slick, for wanting something more. Anyway, it's embarrassing that supply lines is after this episode because it really just like can't even hold a candle to clone cadets.
I love supply lines.
All right, tell me what you love about supply lines.
All right, well, let's talk about what happens in supply lines.
Okay, tell me what happens.
So, supply lines opens up, and there is a blockade over the planet Ryloth, and Jedi General Imogen Dai is there defending it, and with Cham Syndulla, who is the leader of the Ryloth resistance. While they're there, they realize that they cannot break this blockade.
Mm-hmm.
The General Dow the Admiral Dow. So the Admiral in space is blown up, and as they're phoning in to base, and they're like, well, we can't do anything. We're spread too thin. So they get in touch with Bail Organa.
This is important because the Twi'lek?
They pronounce it both ways in this episode.
Yeah, there's two different pronunciations. I'm going to say Twi'lek.
Yeah, that's what it's normally called.
The Twi'lek native population is starving.
Yes.
So they desperately need
is.
supplies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So the Jedi Council gets in touch with Bail Organa and says, we need you to talk to the Toydarians, who is Watto's people. They're the hovering, funky blue people with big noses and fat butts. And
oh, to be a Toydarian with a dump truck.
Yeah, for real.
So is Toydaria like the closest planet over from Ryloth?
It must be, yeah.
Okay. Or it has a direct straight shot.
Yeah, I mean, it's
line-wise.
like hyperspace, so the lines are different than they are in real space.
Yeah.
But it's right there, and they say, oh, well, the representative from Naboo is there, but we need your help to negotiate.
And Bail says, impossible. Senator Padme is a fantastic diplomat. And they're like, no.
I'm afraid it's
Jar
Representative
Jar
Biggs. Obi-Wan is so disappointed to tell him that. But, and this is important for my take of this episode, Organa's like, I can work with this.
Yeah.
So he arrives. The Toydarians are not friendly. They're pretty grouchy.
Well, they're trying to maintain neutrality, which actually I do respect.
Yeah.
The importance of their neutrality is that if they don't favor the separatists or the Republic, ostensibly they get to remain free from being attacked by both sides or either side.
Ostensibly.
So that's important. But they sure do like the Trade Federation.
So they get there and they meet, Organa meets Jar Jar Binks, and they're ready to have an audience before the king. However, they're spied on by Count Dooku, and Count Dooku sends Trade Federation Senator Lot Dodd.
Yes.
Now, I'd like to put an aside here. I looked it up. Lot Dodd is inspired by Senate Majority Leader Trent Lott.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so all of the Trade Federation is named after 90s Republicans, and I find that hilarious.
God, this is the best Easter egg I've ever seen.
It's like the funny way that Hollywood sometimes makes fun of politicians. This is like the most blatant way of doing it.
Can you imagine the writer's room?
Yeah, well, it's all George Lucas. Like he named this character because this character exists in the movies. Lot Dodd does.
Man.
But anyway, he shows up. He is a short Nemodian with a huge hat.
Yeah, I wrote down Newt Gunray shows up, and then I had to cross it out and put Lot Dodd shows up.
That's speciesist. They're different Nemodians.
Oh my God. Not everyone can look as distinct as Ahsoka and Shakti, okay?
So they are having a talk, and Lot Dodd brings up a bunch of points, namely that although the Republic is saying, hey, just calmly give us some supplies.
Yeah, the King of Toydaria is like, absolutely, compassion is part of our core values. We'll happily send some supplies to the Twi'leks. And then Lot Dodd is like, sure is a shame about that separatist blockade you'll be breaking. And the Toydarians freak out.
Yeah. So
freak out.
They have a vote and decide not to help the Republic.
Okay, and then the King of Toydaria kind of flutters up to Bail and Jar Jar and is like, yo.
We actually will help, but we're only letting you move what supplies you've brought with you. So they start loading up all those supplies onto small ships to send to Ryloth. Meanwhile, on Ryloth, Imogen Dai is setting up a last stand because the forces are shattered, everything's falling apart, his people are dying everywhere. They have one gunship to start evacuating people, but it's not enough to move everyone. So they set it up as a bomb to close off one of the pathways so they have a more defensible position.
General Dai has a really ingenious plan, which is to turn that gunship into a bomb and block off the advance of the battle droids.
And as he says that, his clone captain has like such a sad look on his face. He's like, oh, another brilliant idea. Because it seems like he's like, well, I guess I'm going to die here.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Wow.
So they set up their defense, and Bail Organa gets ready to hold a formal dinner with the Trade Federation and the Toydarians.
But it's a decoy dinner.
Yeah, and so Organa dips to go load up the ships.
And we see the best use of Jar Jar as comedic relief that I have seen thus far in Star Wars.
Bail Organa successfully weaponizes Jar Jar.
It is incredibly wonderful.
So Jar Jar has a little earpiece, and they're in this floating dinner thing.
Yeah, can you imagine trying to eat dinner while you're like rapidly spinning in circles?
And the Toydarians are like already hovering. It seems kind of rough. They're not spinning. It's just like the table like spins up 90 degrees. So they're on a hover table. And the ships are like flying by past.
Yeah, Bail's like, okay, go, go, go.
And so Jar Jar gets up and says, Misa creating work of traditional Gungan conceptual art.
Oh my god!
Performative art piece, and he grabs everyone's flatware, all
like,
their plates and cups.
Excuse me. Oh, did you enjoy that? Oh, delicious. I'm going to take it now.
I heard Toydarians really like this, but I'm going to take it.
And he's juggling these plates. Lot Dodd is like almost onto it, but not enough.
Mm-hmm.
So Jar Jar's like juggling and waving his arms and like distracting them from whatever window is facing the ships.
And then he starts stacking them by like bouncing them off his feet and like juggling them and spinning these plates onto each other and
really
juggling.
Impressive.
It's quite impressive. The other Nemodian who's next to Lot Dodd is obviously impressed. But then as he's doing his finale, Jar Jar is distracted by one of the ships flying by behind everyone because he's looking the opposite direction.
Yeah.
Everyone's looking at him.
And Lot Dodd is like, what are you looking at? Jar Jar's like, nothing.
So they all look that way. Jar Jar is explaining himself, and the last ship flies behind him.
Oh, it's so wonderful. Can I also say that the way that Jar Jar introduces his piece of conceptual art is so wonderful. He's like, gentlemen and gentlemen, which is calling out that there are no women in
yes,
this
I made a note of that
episode.
too. Gentlemen and gentlemen.
Oh, it was so delightful.
So the ships get by, and they are flying directly overhead right as I'm Gonna Die and Captain Keeley are making their last stand, and they get shot down. Very sad. Captain Keeley takes a grenade. He pops back up. They fight for a little while longer. Gonna Die.
He's the last fighter standing,
Mm-hmm.
and he sacrifices himself just as the supplies arrive, as the Twi'leks are escaping over the mountains.
Mm-hmm.
Which I had a thought. I'm like, man, I'll cry for 45 minutes about a clone cadets, and then General Dai martyrs himself in an episode, and I'm like, yeah, whatever.
Mm.
We didn't get any character development for him. He was cool. He's amazing with a lightsaber.
Yeah.
He's very cool, but I don't care about him.
He's got some sweet moves.
Yeah.
And then everyone's leaving Toydaria, and Lot Todd comes up and says, I heard that the blockade was broken, and everyone's like, I don't know anything about that.
And Bail's like, well, if you have any proof, you can take it to the Senate, knowing very well that the Senate, will filibuster about it for 18 years, then be like, inconclusive.
Mm-hmm. And King Katunka of the Toydarians is like, ha, and Jar Jar just waves and smiles.
It's a real mwahahaha. It's a real not a hee, a
And King Katunka says, you guys have done a really great job. I think it's time for us to reconsider our neutrality, and I'll happily meet with a Jedi general.
Which is going to launch us straight into Ambush, which is the pilot episode, finally, of the Clone Wars.
Yes. So on that note, as far as chronological order, we're from this point on pretty much in normal chronology with very few exceptions.
That's really nice. I'm excited.
It is, because this is when we're getting into the groove of things.
Mm-hmm. I didn't have a whole lot more to say about supply lines. I thought the fortune cookie was really on the nose. It was where there's a will, there's a way. But actually, I think General Dai says something way more interesting at the beginning of the episode, which is war turns promises into hopes. And I really wish it wasn't so. Ooh, yeah. It's really good.
Gonna Die's name, also another little name
Okay, tell me.
Easter egg here is it's obviously I'm Gonna Die.
No.
Yeah, that's what Dave Filoni named him.
Sam.
Yeah.
How could you tell me this?
I don't know how you missed it.
This is blatant disrespect for the dead. I'm kind of into it. It's really funny.
As far as supply lines, it is, in fact, a Jar Jar episode. There's a handful of Jar Jar episodes scattered throughout the Clone Wars TV series.
Yeah, it's a non-heinous Jar Jar episode. I thought he was wonderful in this one.
Yes, because he is successfully weaponized.
And also everyone is, calling out the fact that Jar Jar sucks. Everyone's sad that it's Jar Jar on Toydaria.
Obi-Wan is. Mace Windu is like, it's Jar Jar Binks. I don't care. I'm Mace Windu. And Bail Organa is like, okay, this is less than ideal, but I can work with this. And
okay.
I like that.
Yeah. Bail is growing on me.
Yeah. Do you have any spicy takes on this episode, other than it's nowhere near as compelling to watch a Jedi and a whole unit of clone soldiers die as it is to watch possibly some clones fail their high school graduation?
That is my take. Yes, accurate. No, actually, you want to know the only note I have written down for this episode? The Trade Federation is extremely annoying always. End notes.
End notes.
That's all I got.
They are extremely annoying.
Actually, I did write down this episode would be extremely confusing if I didn't know what was coming up next. I would be like, this whole elaborate rigmarole with Toydaria and neutrality and blockades and political alliances. If this was like my first Clone Wars episode, I would be like, IDGAF.
Yeah, I can see that. Unfortunately, back to the chronology problem, basically all of the episodes we've watched now have been kind of full episode flashbacks that when they occurred took place out of time, because these take place during season 3, but they take place before season 1. So that's I really see where you're coming from. If we were to watch this in release order, you would watch them, and I don't think that the emotional impact would be as great.
Yeah.
Especially because by season 3, you're kind of sick of Jar Jar episodes.
We'll have to see. I think Supply Lines for me reminds me quite a bit of the prequel movies in that there's a lot of, it's for me, having studied foreign policy, it's a real foreign policy 101, like international relations 101 class where they're like, there's a humanitarian crisis on Ryloth, and then they're doing econometrics and they're doing negotiations and diplomacy. And I'm like, I didn't sign up to watch a Saturday morning cartoon that reminds me of being in college again.
You probably didn't sign up to cry either.
Oh my God. I had to take an Advil. My face was red. I had a splitting headache. I cried so hard. I even rewatched it for quotes and cried again at the same places. I'm not embarrassed, only a little bit. They knew what they were doing.
So I can see that you're trying to surprise me about who your bae is going to be.
Are you saying it's time for Baywatch?
Yes.
It's time for Baywatch. It's time for Baywatch.
All right, I want to start this one.
Okay, go for it.
Yeah, because I know you're not going to take my bae.
Wait, is it Brick?
No.
Oh, okay. Who's your bae?
Jar Jar.
Really? Oh my God.
Jar Jar's conceptual art piece is so good. And when you see him, you're like, okay, he's out of his depth. He knows he's out of his depth. He's super grateful that Organa shows up to give him some help. But then he goes in, he knows what to, and the whole make a distraction, he didn't plan for that. He didn't have anything. He didn't know that they were in a room completely surrounded by windows. And what does he do? It's time for traditional Gungan art. And he starts juggling. Jar Jar is saved the day by juggling.
He's really good at it too.
Yes. Yes, he is. It's really remarkable seeing him, and he's especially watching it with the subtitles, his little lines are very funny, the things he's saying to everyone. It's the high point of the episode for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
And secondary bae from the first episode is gonna be Brick. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Because after thinking about him being a megamind and how he pressured them, he applied the pressure that they needed to thrive.
And they turned from coal into diamonds.
Well, particularly when he took away their ascension hooks.
Yeah.
Because like that took forethought. And he did play it off. He's like, oh, well, you know, this is all fine. And Shakti is like, yes, of course, it's war isn't fair. And so they're going to have to deal with this.
I was going to say that was one of my favorite Shakti quotes from the episode. Adversity and war is a constant. The enemy won't play fair either.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, wisdom from the mouth of a babe.
So that's a little bit of a double dip. So you can also choose Jar Jar as your bae if you want.
Wow. No. Okay, well, upon first watching, my bae was actually Ellis, but I think you've convinced me that he didn't really add a lot to this episode, Clone Cadets.
He was a foil.
He was a good foil. I'm a real sucker for the Rodian eyes.
Yeah.
Rodian?
He's not a Rodian, but he does have the Rodian eyes.
They're so beautiful.
Staring into space. Yeah, they're pretty.
Yeah, they're gorgeous. I'm a real sucker for Ellis, but there's no surprises. It's 99.
99.
You didn't think 99 was going to be my bae?
I thought after you bought that Shakti poster to put above your bed that it was going to be Shakti.
After I started worshiping at the idol of Shakti, I actually did so much Googling on her. I think she's so great.
I saw that you ordered her robes, so.
Oh my God. Yeah, and a little headdress too.
Yeah.
A little fake Leku.
Yeah, but 99 is a very
99
good choice.
is the clear choice.
Yeah, he's been dealt a tough hand and does his job. And as you said, his role is really understated as far as what he could be. He's not allowed to live up to his full potential.
He's not. And in those circumstances, I would become embittered and I would become closed off, resentful. I would probably try to go AWOL just like Heavy. But you know what? 99 responds to circumstances beyond his control and prejudice beyond his control with grace, openness, and kindness. And that is what saves Domino Squad. He is the reason why they rise above their petty squabbling and live up to their fullest potential. Shakti says, these are the finest soldiers I've ever seen. 99 did that.
Yeah.
He's a hero.
Which makes Shakti seem like the super genius there for having the right pressure in all the right places to move each squad of clones along.
I want to just say one thing. I was reading a book recently where they're talking about this song that they sang at the annual festival. And it's like their creation myth. And there's a moment of silence in the middle of the song where they say, there are so many acts of valor and kindness and selflessness during wartime that will never have a song sung about them. They will never be recognized. They will never be remembered, but they happened. And we hold a moment of silence to remember all of those actions. No one will ever commend 99 for what he did, but I think it is worth celebrating.
Yeah.
That's why he's my bae.
And Heavy gave him a medal.
And Heavy did give him a medal.
Were any characters in supply lines worth noting?
No.
Okay.
Jar Jar's great. Bayla's great. Actually, I really am quite fond of the Toydarian King.
King Katunka.
He actually, I really like his whole thing about, yes, we have the values of compassion and honesty. I think that's very cool. Watto is a bad batch. He's a little defective.
He's just skeezy.
He's real skeezy.
Yeah. And I do like in this episode, they explored Toydaria. I think it's fun. It's a very Star Wars thing to be like, remember that one alien that you saw 2 frames of in a cantina scene? We're going to make a whole episode about their planet. And back in the Legends era, people would be like, oh yes, we're making a whole book about people riding Rancors or whatever. And all of that was eaten up when they ate all the Legends and turned everything into, they ate all the previous canon and turned everything into Legends. But it's still such a Star Wars thing to be like, yes, let's have a whole episode about Watto's planet.
That's why I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm here for it.
That
give me an arc on everyone in the cantina scene.
I think it's an interesting thing with the Toydarians that there's very much a Middle Eastern vibe to their culture. Their accents, their accents, they all carry swords, like ceremonial swords, and they have a the strong traditions of
Honor,
compassion, honor,
honesty.
and grace to visitors.
Yeah. Hospitality.
And I think that all of that is a shout out to really just all across the Middle East, a lot of virtues that are really expounded upon there.
I think they're also rehabilitating the Toydarian culture, because if all you see is Watto, you're like, F these guys.
Yeah, who's this sketchy alien?
With like a 5 o'clock shadow.
And stupid hat.
And a stupid hat.
It is the dumbest hat.
All right, y'all. As always, you can find us on social media at Growing Up Skywalker. If you like the show, please leave us a review on your podcast app or send it to the Jar Jar conceptual artist in your life.
Or, the person who helped you get to graduation.
Oh my God. Send it to your high school mentor.
Or to the janitor who taught you how to play chess, like Queen's Gambit.
Oh my God. Yeah. Send it to that guy.
99.
In addition, if you'd like to get access to some really fun goodies, you can become one of our patrons. I have been uploading the notes that we don't get to from each episode, which are delightful, if I do say so myself. So there's lots of bonus content for you.
Next week, we're watching the pilot,
Yahoo!
finally, which is Ambush, Season 1, Episode 1.
It's a 9 on the cryometer.
And we're starting the Malevolence arc, which is going to be Season 1, Episode 2.
That's it for this Tuesday. Have a great week, y'all.
Catch you later.
Bye.